Good evening, Cuse Nation, and welcome to the Upstate Orange Podcast, recorded live inside the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. It's Thursday, February 13th, 2014, and tonight we're going to be talking about the number one ranked, still undefeated, 24-0 Syracuse and the Ennis bomb in Pittsburgh last night. We'll have some basketball trivia, Syracuse basketball trivia, and a whole lot more. I'm Jim Sinacropi in studio alongside my co-host Matt Verke. How you doing, Verk?
Good, Jim.
And Brad Connor, not with us tonight. He's in an airplane right now, somewhere over America. So it's just going to be Verk and I, along with our producer, Jeremy Hunt, talking about Orange Hoops for the next hour. The Upstate Orange Podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank, with locations in Auburn, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Be sure to check out their mobile banking app or visit them online at mygenbank.com. And Seneca Meadows, responsible waste management for the next generation. Learn more online at senecameadows.com. And by Midday, Mirris and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. So, unbelievably, Syracuse is still undefeated after a rare win at the Peterson Athletic Center, the first top 5 ranked team to ever win in the building. Let's talk about it now with our Big 5 questions. Question 1. Was that Ennis shot lucky?
Yeah, I mean, I think he makes one. He makes that shot once out of every 20 times. You know, it was lucky. But he put himself in a position to make it, and he made it. You know, that's all that matters. And obviously, great game. And Syracuse fought hard the whole game, and it's kind of a lucky win. But a lot of things happened leading up to that weren't lucky to even put him in that position.
Yeah.
And Syracuse. If you just the thing that's amazing to me about the Syracuse team, if you look at the stats of the game, you give up 18 offensive rebounds, you only get 6. You give up all these second chance points,
all the threes against Duke.
Yeah, but they win.
Yeah.
And they don't turn the ball over, and they make big plays when they have to, and that's the key.
It is amazing, and I don't want to say luck played into it, because Ennis even said that he practices that shot, for that type of situation, and he squared up, he rose, and he delivered.
Yeah, it was more. It wasn't a heave. It was a shot. It's a great shot, and it's a hard shot. Obviously, that it is a prayer, but it went in, and it wasn't crazy. Obviously it was crazy, but it wasn't a freaking 3/4 court shot or something. He got it off,
and I got so much confidence in Tyler Ennis, and I texted you, Verk, about when they were in the timeout with 4.4 seconds, and the text said, Ennis is about to become a legend. I don't know why I had that feeling. And then when I saw the ball inbound to him, I said, we're going to win the game. For a brief second, when he rose to take the shot, I was thinking, no way he's making this. But when it left his hands, I tell you, I saw that thing going in, and
just what amazed me about it is he even with 4.4 seconds to go or whatever it was, he didn't look rushed. Where most guys are going crazy and they just throw up some crazy shot. He kind of got the shot he wanted. You know what I mean? And it was amazing, and it went in.
And another thing about that shot that I kind of thought about, because the big news was Ennis hits this bomb, LeBron James hits a game winner with Iguodala in his face. And you compare the two. Ennis makes it. He got a little excited. As most excited we've ever seen him. But still, he pretty much just jogged down the other court and waited for his teammates to come. And then he just had a big smile on his face. LeBron's doing these stomps and these hand motions. I mean, come on. Ennis is the 18, 19-year-old kid. LeBron's a man now. And you got it just seems
But
like
that's, you know,
Ennis
that's-
has more maturity than LeBron.
You know, I've never seen a player as composed as Tyler Ennis, and in all honesty, and I've been around a little basketball since, you know, my whole life, and he's amazing. He doesn't get up or too down, and even when he turns it over or makes a three or does something great, he always looks the same, and you know, luckily we have him on our team.
And it's a lot of stats about Tyler Ennis has been going around, but, you know, no turnovers in the final 5 minutes of any game this year, which is just amazing from a freshman, from anybody, senior or freshman point guard. And, you know, perfect from the free throw line in those situations, and 8 of 9 from the field in those situations.
And, you know, in talking to you before the game, we were both pretty confident that Syracuse was going to win this game. You know, obviously, you know, reading into it, I started to get a little more worried as, you know, Pitt was 9-0 all time against top 5 teams in the P you know, some great, you know, they're I think Syracuse is 1-6 or 1-7 entering that game, you know. And I just felt like the Syracuse, I don't think this is a great Pitt team as good as the teams they've had in the past,
right.
And I think it's a great Syracuse team. Obviously, I just felt Syracuse. I know they got luck, you know, you want to call it luck to win the game or whatever, but I just felt Syracuse was going to win that game.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to call it luck, because they could have given it up. They could have easily given up. They were beaten
down 6, a minute 57 to go, and Pitt had the ball.
Yeah,
and you know, and then we got the CJ Fair 3. You know, and we talked a little bit about it too. Was, you know, I thought Pitt's strategy in the last 3 or 4 minutes was horrible. You know, obviously, you know, they took their time all game, but at the end they took too long. You know, they waited to attack with 5 seconds to go, and they ended up getting terrible shots. And you know, Syracuse capitalized. Syracuse went 4 for 4. Pick, you know, the one basket they made the last 2 minutes was you know, the Lorenzo Charles type lay-in
off an air ball.
Off an air ball. So, you know, I thought that's, you know, that's. You got to get a better shot. You want to run clock, but you got to start attacking a little bit earlier than, you know, 7-8 seconds to go, especially against that
Syracuse,
zone.
Yeah, well, like you say, with all those statistics lining up against Syracuse and being no top 5 team ever winning in that building, it's tough to call it luck, because, you know, because we did get the win, and anytime you get that type of win, you really earned it. And it was an ugly game. It always is when we play Pitt in Pittsburgh. And this time we figured out a way to win it. So you mentioned the CJ Fair jumpers. Those were huge, just huge. Here's a guy having a terrible game, his worst game of the year, and he stands and delivers twice on must-make shots. And, you know, and we're talking about, you know, a three-pointer and another 16-foot jumper.
Yeah, you know, the three-pointer, he misses that, and Pitt gets the rebound. Game's over, pretty much.
Sure.
You know, at that point, minute 30 to go, maybe, or maybe even less, and he was wide open, so you know, he got a great look, and, you know, they kind of showed, you know, Patterson didn't really, or Patterson really didn't, you know, make much of an effort to get out and guard him. And he knocked it down. Then he made a tough shot when he came and crossed over and hit the nice pull up, and then you know, obviously everybody knows what happens from there.
So question 2, Verk, is, we're at the end of a game, and we got a choice. Now, Boeheim said he wanted to go to Fair deep on that inbound play, but it ended up going to Ennis.
I don't know how that was going to happen. I mean,
that would be tough to make plays. That Christian Leitner play, I think, is the only play in the history that ever worked like that. Also, who was it, Barry Goheen, or who was it that hit that shot for Bryce Drew? That's right. But you got the choice to drop a play at the end of the game, of a tie game or a one-possession game. We got the ball down or tied. Who are you going to have take the shot, CJ Fair or Tyler Ennis?
I like Tyler Ennis. I just think, you know, CJ's hit a lot of big shots this year for us, but I just think he's also turned it over a lot. You know, I think he's more prone to maybe turn it over. You know, even in that game, he had a couple, you know, he dribbled off his foot the one time, and he got caught up in the air a few times. But I just think Tyler can do a little bit more, and, you know, as far as off the dribble type deal, you know, CJ's not great off the dribble, but, you know, it's close. But I would go with Ennis at this point. I think he's proved, you know, we were talking about stats the last 5 minutes of the game. There's nobody better. Yeah,
I like the ball in his hands, maybe looking for Fair if they overemphasize.
Yeah, Fair's not much of a creator off the dribble. So,
all right, well, question 3, and this was the whole reason that game came down to what it came down to was the fact that we got out rebounded pretty badly, 35-24. And, my question to you for question 3 is it because Keita wasn't there? Did we miss Keita?
No, I mean we missed them, but that's not why we got out rebounded. They out rebounded us at Syracuse and Keita played. They killed us on the boards there. I don't know what it is about Pitt, and we were just kind of talking about this before the show. They kill us on the boards every game, and usually that's why they beat us. This year we've been fortunate enough to pull out 2 wins, 2 close, obviously really close games. Both games could have went either way. But, this year's team just has that, whatever it is, to pull these out. But, it's amazing. And, Duke beat Pittsburgh on the boards, and we beat Duke on the boards, but Pitt killed us on the boards. And it's like, it was unbelievable. Early on, especially, I was like,
so
holy
frustrating.
cow.
So frustrating to
and
watch.
We talked, the zone puts you in some tough positions sometimes, but, Pitt, it's not like Pitt's got these unbelievable big guys in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it worked us. They've find a way to find the seams in the zone as they crash the boards.
And obviously, it wasn't. I don't think it's a lack of effort on Syracuse's part. They were obviously. It looked like they were hustling and trying.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? It's just.
I was thinking maybe
Pitt's very good at that, getting offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I think maybe. Knowing that they didn't have Keita, that they laid off a little bit, trying not to pick up any dumb fouls. Going over the back, but. We did miss Keita. I don't think he would have made a huge difference on the board, but, we played 6 guys last night in a game like that, a tough physical Big East style game. We played 6 guys. I thought we'd see Roberson at some point.
Yeah, I did too, but obviously Coach Boeheim doesn't feel he's ready for the big-time environment yet, and, stuck with a 6-man rotation, and, hey, it worked, so.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, I guess. So... All right, let's move away from the game a little bit and move to question 4. And the ACC conference right now is 5th in conference RPI behind the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12, and the Big East. Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's. You remember that conference?
Yeah.
So RPI, we're behind them, and it's business as usual, I think, for the ACC. It's just that now we're in the ACC, and still, this conference is the 4th or 5th best in the country, and it's kind of frustrating. But my question, Verk, is, would we be undefeated if we were still in the Big East? If Syracuse and Pitt were still in the Big East this year, and this whole realignment didn't change, would this team be undefeated?
Yeah, I mean, the Big East might have a better rating, but I mean, we beat Villanova. They're 10-1, a game up on Creighton. I think we beat Creighton. We ACC this year is it's kind of what it's always been. North Carolina's a little bit down, but playing very well right now. Duke's good. Pitt, we're still playing Pitt twice. I don't see any of those teams beating us.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just to make
Big Ten, Big Ten might be a little bit more challenging. I think from top to bottom, that conference, top 6 or 7 teams you got to come to play every night against. But ACC's down. But if you don't play good at Maryland or at some of these places, you could lose.
The thing is frustrating is the league is on paper so poor, but yet we still got to go into these tough environments and pull out games, and everybody's giving us their best shot.
And I think in conference and in any of the top, 7 or 8 conferences on the road, it's going to be somewhat of a struggle, a chance to lose. You see it, night in, night out in the Big Ten and a lot of the conferences. Virginia, obviously we got to go there.
Scary.
And Syracuse had a tough schedule this year. When you look at the ACC, they got to play Pitt twice, Duke twice, and then they had Boston College twice, which obviously is.
Well, we haven't played them the second time yet, so
and Duke got Syracuse twice, North Carolina twice. Virginia doesn't play Duke twice. They don't play Syracuse twice. And they don't play Pitt twice.
And we're 1 game behind them, so they got the easy schedule. Virginia, without a doubt. So, all right, final question of the Big 5 tonight: what do we need to do to improve our offensive production? Because it's not just in this game. Now, Doris Burke last night says we're not a good offensive team. A lot of people have said it. I'll argue that a lot of that is just because our defense is so good that we're getting less possessions overall because they're taking the full 35 seconds every time, and they're trying to slow it down so we don't get in transition. But nonetheless, when I watch this team in the half court, sometimes it's frustrating to have all these tools, and we're not scoring as much as I think we could off our half court.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get as many shots as the other teams, and most of the time everybody's slowing it down against us, which obviously just the pace is slower. And I think Syracuse is very good playing at a slower pace now. They've seen it so much, and it really doesn't bother them. Right. Duke ran with them, and we scored 90-something points.
Yeah, we can do whatever anybody wants.
Most teams are when teams are going to run 30 seconds of shot clock and heave up a shot, we're going to win those games because we are more efficient than a lot of teams on offense. It just sometimes it's tough to get out and run because the teams are holding the ball so much against you.
I think what we got to do is go to Christmas more. He works so hard and he doesn't get the ball enough.
And I think you saw Boeheim last night telling Cooney a couple times throw him the ball because Christmas scored a couple times last night when they did get to him on the block.
Assist too, get a little inside out. So I think when they're struggling and they're manning up on CJ and taking away the penetration of Ennis, Christmas is working hard down there. Give him the ball. He's obviously got the game to score it in close, especially 1-on-1, and then he's got the game to pass it too.
Yeah, he's come a ways.
Let's run it through him.
I think he needs to get a few more shot attempts, and at least not some of these teams are gonna have to double him eventually, and then that just frees up a little more space for everybody else. But looking at ahead, Virginia is just such an intriguing matchup for Syracuse because Virginia's going to slow it down. They slow it down against everybody, and they're a top 5 defensive team.
Got a great point guard.
They've held teams under 50 multiple times this year.
It's going to be a tough one on the road.
It is, no doubt.
And that was a team that got off to a tough start this year, but now once league play started, they look like they're going to be our tallest task, along with heading down to Cameron, which we got a break, Verk, with that North Carolina Duke game getting snowed out because now they're playing that game 2 games before Syracuse, and that
always helps, no doubt.
Yeah, tough for Duke to come back and host Syracuse after playing Carolina 2 days earlier in a big rivalry game.
Yeah, I got a question for you. I was listening to talk radio today, and they're comparing Tyler Ennis to Pearl Washington their freshman years. Who do you take?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that.
Pearl had better stats. Pearl averaged like 14 points and 6 assists, I think, as a freshman.
Well, they were. It's funny. It's really funny that you asked me this because I looked at Pearl's freshman line today, and it was like 16 points a game, 6 assists a game, 6-point-something assists a game. The biggest difference between Pearl and Ennis was turnovers.
Yeah.
Pearl had 111 turnovers for the season, which averages out to be like 3.6 a game, and Ennis is averaging 1 point whatever he is a game, and so that's amazing.
Different guard, Pearl's a little bit more flashy, and he scored a little bit more, but I think he had to a little bit on that
faster
team.
paced team. That team ran, obviously more than this team does, but Pearl, they're also similar now in that they kind of ascended so quickly to be legends. Pearl was a legend before he stepped on the Syracuse campus. He was a playground legend. He was known nationally. He was a huge recruit. Even the nickname, the Pearl, had a little aura to it.
And he kind of, they're talking that he really got Syracuse going
far
as recruiting and getting those,
filled the dome.
Yeah.
He was the first guy to fill that dome. And, another difference was
kept Sherm Douglas on the bench.
Yeah, I remember being crushed when Pearl went pro, and then next year Sherman Douglas comes in and you forget about him real quick, kind of like Ennis has done with Williams. But it is interesting to compare those two. And I also looked, and obviously that shot Ennis hit last night was to make them 24-0. When Pearl hit the shot against Boston College, they already have 4 losses, on the year. So it was.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is that shot is like the vice president called Tyler Ennis. It's there's been game winners happen. It seems like every other night almost in college basketball. But I guess because just with Syracuse being undefeated to continue the streak, at the Patterson, at Pitt,
number 1 ranked team,
it just blew up all over the place. It's like. You would have thought that it was to win the national championship almost how much play that's getting and how big of a deal it's been.
And I think part of that is just because it was Syracuse. We're an elite program now, so obviously if someone from Duke hit a shot like that, it was going to blow up and be a big-time story. Probably Kentucky, too, if they were a top 5 ranked team and were, hit
I
a
think
shot
the
like
undefeated thing is, it's...
To keep the streak going, it's starting to capture the imagination of the country, I guess. And then, the fact that it was a freshman that a lot of people, maybe casual followers of college basketball, hadn't heard too much about until that shot, too. Everybody's, wondering who this kid is. So, but, man, what a great night and what a great moment to, store away with all the other great moments in Syracuse basketball history. And it's funny when a shot like that, too, got me thinking, okay, what other buzzer beaters can I remember Syracuse having? And the first one that jumps to mind is Wallace against Georgia. The same game, Sapola sending it into overtime with a jump shot from the corner and one of the most amazing plays in Syracuse basketball history. Wallace inbounded the pass, threw it overhand, baseball style, to Sapola across the court. He caught it and made a shot with there's 2.2 seconds. McNamara's buzzer beaters against Georgetown and
Big East
Cincinnati. Yeah. Pearl's half-court shot. Then there's one that I hadn't thought of for a while, but Big East Tournament maybe it was 98. Ryan Blackwell hit a shot to beat St. John's as time expired. So
how about Terrence Roberts against Rutgers in the Dome?
Yeah, I do remember that. He shot the three from the top of the corner.
Something?
I don't know if he banked it or not, but
it's the only good play he ever made, I think.
Glenn Secunda also hit one against Seton Hall. Remember Secunda?
Wow. No, I don't remember that.
He went to school with me. He's actually the one when I was at school there. We were friends. We played Sega and lived near each other on South Campus. And he hit that shot. He was pretty pumped. But then he transferred to Penn State. But whatever. So just another great memory to add to the annals of buzzer beaters. Leo Routman's tap in at the Big East tournament that was held at the Dome in triple overtime. But I had no doubt happy all day today. Big smile on my face. I've heard, listen to ESPN radio today. They were all talking about it, from Mike and Mike to SVP Russillo. Colin Cowherd, Boeheim was on the Russillo show. So when things like that happens, great. And, all in all, that helps the health of the program.
Sure.
Makes people want to go to Syracuse. Makes kids want to go to Syracuse, and that's a great thing. So a couple news bits. I mentioned the Duke game against Syracuse. They changed the time to 7 o'clock from 6, and the reason they did that is because College Game Day that day is Arizona versus Colorado. Not such a big marquee game now. So instead of doing the College Game Day live before the game like they usually do, they're going to shift it over and do it before the Syracuse-Duke game, because ESPN knows that this is going to be the second biggest game of the year after the game in the Dome.
So the College Game Day guys aren't going to be at the Arizona game?
No, they're still going to Arizona, but when they go back at 6 o'clock to do that little pregame thing that they do, they're actually going to do it. I think they're going to do it from Cameron, or they're going to somehow it's for that game. It's like an hour-long pregame show for the Syracuse-Duke game. So they kind of switch things up, move that game up an hour to get it.
What game was better, Duke-Syracuse or Duke-Pittsburgh?
Syracuse-Pittsburgh, right? You mean?
Yeah. Syracuse-Pittsburgh.
They're both great. It's tough to say because I wanted that Duke game so bad because I didn't want to lose to Duke, the first ACC game in the Dome. We'll always have that. So in the sellout crowd, but being a Syracuse fan and knowing how hard it is for us to win in that building, and sitting there thinking, well, this is it. It was a nice run. You knew they were going to lose sometime, and a lot of people figured it would be at the Pete. But then all of a sudden, within a minute later, to be sitting there with the win in the most dramatic fashion, they were both good. And I'm going to go with the Pitt game because it was us hitting the shot at the end.
Yeah.
The Duke game, we stopped them defensively at the end.
Right.
So I'm going to go with the Pitt game, but two unbelievable regular season college basketball games, no doubt about that. Another news bit this week: Keith Hughes died. Did you know that, Vert?
I did.
It's obviously very sad, but he played for Syracuse for 2 years, transferred to Rutgers, where he basically he averaged 17, 18 points his final 2 years there. With Earl Duncan transferred away from Syracuse.
Do you know how?
No, they didn't really say.
I read the article. I didn't. I didn't see anything about how he died or anything like that. But yeah, obviously pretty tragic.
All right, well, looking up ahead, Saturday we got North Carolina State in the Dome, 3 o'clock. They're expecting 30,000 people for that game, too. So,
Yeah.
that's an ACC network game. That's not a CBS or ESPN game. Then Wednesday night, I got 6-row tickets for this one. Boston College at the Dome. That's on ESPN, too. That's 7 o'clock. Then, of course, the following weekend, we go to Duke. 7 o'clock is the new tip time on ESPN. Then come back 2 days later to play Maryland at College Park on Big Monday at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, that Saturday, March 1st, we go at Virginia. And then we finish up Tuesday at home against Georgia Tech and Sunday, March 9th at Florida State. And then we head to the ACC tournament. So we're going to step aside for 60 seconds, hear from some great sponsors, and be right back with some great Syracuse basketball trivia.
We hold on to the things that really matter. Welcome to Generations Bank.
Hi, I'm Jody Torrio. If you're like me, you've got stuff lying around the house that you want to recycle, but you're just not sure how, like broken toasters, vacuum cleaners, or microwaves. At Seneca Meadows, we have a drop-off for those. Bring in anything with a cord, and we'll make sure it's recycled properly through our partnership with 2TRG. It's that easy.
And welcome back to the Upstate Orange Podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. We're here every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, you can hook up with us by subscribing to our feed. The Upstate Hoops Podcast is what you're going to want to search for on Stitcher.com, on iTunes. On YouTube, you're going to want to subscribe to FingerLakes1.com. And you can go to fingerlakes1.com, or actually podcast.fingerlakes1.com/upstate hoops, and you can hook up with us there. That's our show homepage with all the episodes and links to all our presence online. So, all right, well, Brad's not here this week. Usually after the break, we come back with Connor's Corners Trivia, where he gives us some great Syracuse basketball trivia questions. So in his absence, Verk, we're going one-on-one. I got some trivia for you.
All right.
And it's going to be focused on the two teams we play this week. So right off the bat, we got NC State Saturday. And I want to know, who are the 4 NC State coaches Boeheim has coached against? We've played 5 games against NC State since 1990. Never played them before that in the Boeheim era. So starting with 1990, we played NC State 5 times, and Boeheim's faced 4 different coaches.
Sidney Lowe.
Yep, 2010, we beat him 65-59. Scoop Hardin had 23.
Mark Gottfried.
Yep, that was 2011. That was the team with Scoop, Trish, Mello, Christmas, and Joseph. We beat them 88-72. And that was on the road at NC State. Deion Waiters had 22, and Joseph had 21.
Huh.
Yeah, those were the easier of the two because they were most recent.
Yeah.
One of them I think you can get. I don't know if you'll get the who was coaching them in 1990. If you have no idea,
I played against them in 1995. We played at NC State. Fuller was the center on the team. He was a lefty. Jesus. I don't know if it's the same coach that was in 1990, though.
No, there's a big gap. We played him in 90, and then we played him again in 2001. So there's an 11-year gap there the first 2 times we played NC State. Our all-time record gets them 4-1. The only loss was in 2001. I was at that game, actually. It was in the Dome.
I don't know.
All right, well, let me give them to you. 1990 was Les Robinson. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I never would have got that, though.
Yeah. We beat him 86-79. That team featured Adrian Autry, Michael Edwards, LaFonso Ellis, Dave Johnson, and Billy Owens. And Dave Johnson had 24 points and 17 rebounds.
Wow.
that game. 2001, we played a home and home against them, if you can believe that. We played NC State on December 8th at home, and we lost 82 to 68 in a game Preston Shumpert had 29. And then we played on the road against them on February 3rd, 2000. Oh, they're separate seasons. Okay, I got you, yeah. So it was a home and home over 2 seasons. But Herb Sendek, Verk.
Oh, yeah. I should have got that one.
Herb Sendek was a coach. And in that game on February 3rd of 2001, we beat him 54-53. Preston Shumpert had 25 in that game. And listen to this starting lineup. Alan Griffin, Deshaun Williams, Jeremy McNeil, Preston Shumpert, and Damone Brown. It's just crazy, crazy team.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 times we played NC State, and they beat us once. So hopefully we'll move to 5-1 after the game Saturday. Now, next week we got Boston College. Now, obviously we've played Boston College a million times. We're all-time records 41-23 against them. But in the Boeheim era, there were 5 Boston College coaches that Boeheim coached against, and I'm wondering how many of these guys you can name. And I think that you might be able to get these all.
I don't think I can.
One of them is going to be tough. Well, actually, they all could be tough. Sometimes it's tough to draw a blank.
Boston College.
And maybe our producer can help out here. He's shaking his head.
Al Skinner.
Yep, that's one where Boeheim only coached against him one game.
Jesus.
Because he was in the ACC. 1-0 against Al Skinner. Oh, wait. No. 7-4 against Al Skinner. Okay. I'm sorry, my bad. 7-4 against Al Skinner.
That was back when BC was pretty good.
Yeah, Craig Smith and company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Troy Bell.
Yeah. Jared Dudley.
Yeah. Some nice teams.
So Skinner was one.
Not so Donahue.
Donahue was the 1-0. We beat him this year.
Okay.
So that's one of the coaches.
That's 2 out of 5.
Yeah, and there's one guy that I know you got to get. I mean, he's a legendary coach. He moved on to coach at another school, and now he's retired.
I don't know.
Our producer's shaking his head over there. I can't believe you guys can't think of this guy. He coached Michael Adams and others.
Early 80s.
Yeah, 80s into the 90s maybe. Come on, Jeremy, you got to know something over there. Well, I'm not going to sit here with a bunch of dead air, so let me give you another hint. He moved to Maryland after Boston College. That's where he went, where he won national championships.
Oh,
Gary Williams?
Yeah, that's right,
Gary
Gary Williams.
Jeez.
Boeheim was 8-3 against Gary Williams. You guys should have got that, right?
I remember that. I really don't.
You don't remember Gary Williams coaching Boston College?
Crazy.
Wow. That was like early Big East.
Yeah, I'm a little younger than you, Jim.
No, that's true. That's true. Do you remember Michael Adams hitting the shot, falling out of bounds at the Boston Garden?
I didn't know Gary. I wouldn't have got that.
Okay. 2 more. One of the guys got a kind of local upstate New York flavor. He had a basketball camp around here. I actually went to it as a kid. No, he's an Irish last name.
Dennis Peisnick.
No.
O'Brien?
Yeah, good call, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
Jim O'Brien at
Yeah.
7-4. Don't be afraid to unmute your mic when you're making these guesses, so everybody gives full credit to you. Jim O'Brien. Boeheim was 16-6 against O'Brien. That leaves one coach. And since I know you guys have no idea, I'll give you a hint. After Boston College, he went to coach in the Big Ten at Iowa. And he's got before you say his name, you say doctor.
Yeah, I don't know. I know who it is. I can't think of the name.
Dr. Tom Davis.
Yeah.
Coached Boston College, and Boeheim was 3-4 against him, losing record against him.
What years was Dr. Tom Davis there?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm assuming it was before Gary Williams. It had to be before Gary Williams. They got Gary Williams, Dr. Tom Davis, Jim O'Brien, Al Skinner, and Tom Donahue. So as we sit here and we look at the two teams that we're going to face coming up this week, they've had a total of 9 different coaches since Boeheim's been at Syracuse. And sometimes we overlook how amazing it is that Boeheim has been there for as long as he has been there. Well, these other programs, didn't even say Jim Valvano. This is just since 1990 that NC State's gone through 4 coaches, and boy, they Wolfpack fans really had a long tenure with Sidney Lowe. It was like everybody kind of knew it wasn't going to work out, but he stayed there for quite a while. I'm wearing that red jacket. Obviously Sidney Lowe, a great NC State legendary player, but not so much as a coach. So yeah, that's all the trivia I have. Hopefully that it was.
I thought it was always surprising when Herb Sendek left there to go to Arizona State.
Yeah, that's not a move you would think, especially out of the heart.
I guess the problem when you're NC State is Duke and Carolina are right down the road, and
you get sick of it after a while. Yeah, not only just in recruiting, but in politically, I think inside the league, and that was something that I was worried about heading into the ACC too, was how we're going to fit into that whole political structure. So, all right, well, that is the trivia for the week. Next, we move ahead to the list of the week, and in front of me, I have the ACC standings, and I'm wondering right now, Verk, if we run through these, how many of these teams are going to be in the NCAA tournament if it were to end today. So let's start at the top. Obviously, you got Virginia Tech, Boston College, Miami, Georgia Tech, pretty much out because those teams are 500 or worse. Notre Dame's in 11th place. They're 13-12 overall.
There's no chance.
No chance. Wake Forest, 14-10 overall. Yeah, I agree. No chance. But now we get to 9. You got 14-10 Florida State. No chance. Even if they beat Syracuse and let's say they beat Syracuse and pick up another win against a ranked team, maybe win a couple games in the ACC tournament, end up at
they need to do a lot of work between now and then to get in.
Yeah, with 10 losses, so you figure if they can maybe be 19-12,
possibility.
Maybe, but that's encouraging because they're the 9th place team. Then you got Maryland sitting at 14-11.
They're not getting in either.
No.
They beat Duke, obviously, which is a nice win to have at home. But they got work to do. They're borderline. But right now, I'd have Clemson probably not in the tournament.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't look at bracketology too much. It's nice to see who's in and who's out, but the matchups that they're projecting and stuff, I don't really look at it too much. But I think if you do look at the whole landscape of the whole country, that Clemson at this point is the 7th place team in the ACC, probably would get a bid if it was to end today. Probably be a 10, 11, 12 seed.
They're in the talk.
So moving up to the team we play this week, NC State. They're 16-8 on the year, and obviously, if they can somehow pull off an upset of Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, that'll help their resume. As it stands right now, I don't think that they get a bid. Again, the lack of good wins.
I have to look at their non-conference schedule, but I don't think so. Like Joel Lenardi, he's got 6 ACC teams getting in right now. So he's got, either NC State or Clemson getting in right now, apparently.
Yeah. And so now we move ahead to a team that was looking like they had no shot, but have turned it around. Roy Williams in North Carolina at 16-7.
Yeah, they're making a nice run now. They start out 0-4
in the league,
in ACC,
won 6 in a row, so they're 6-4 in the league.
And they're playing well. They got a bunch of great recruits on their team. They just need to play to their potential, and they're playing well. I was looking forward to that. I thought that game Wednesday night with Duke, North Carolina was going to be an interesting matchup. I thought Duke was going to win that game, but I thought Carolina was going to be competitive with them.
So then we jump up ahead to some 4 teams that are probably looking good right now, barring some type of implosion. That's Pitt, who, what a crushing loss for Pitt. Because you win that game against the number 1 undefeated team in the country, and you put that on your resume, and you can relax a little bit heading down the stretch of the season, at least not having that pressure of being a bubble team. I don't think they're a bubble team. They're 20-5, but lose 1 or 2 more games, coming up here. They got injuries and they haven't played that well.
Pitt hasn't beaten their non-conference schedule.
Terrible.
Wasn't great.
Lost to Virginia at home, lost to Duke at home, lost to Syracuse.
I heard
at
a
home.
lot of talk. They haven't beat a team with a top 50 RPI. I don't think it was. But Duke beat them pretty good at home. They're right there with Virginia. They lost by 1 or 2 points, I believe. And obviously
At home though, I thought these teams were going to come into the Pete and say
I wasn't surprised Duke beat them. I was surprised Virginia did. They're kind of
that was a close game.
Virginia Pitt kind of mirrors each other. They're methodical and kind of grinded out teams, but Duke got the better of them, and in Syracuse, it's not like they're terrible losses, obviously, but games you expect Pitt to win at home.
And then you got Duke, Syracuse, Virginia, obviously all pretty much locks at this point. And you got to hand it to Duke from where they were a few weeks ago to ascending back into the top 10 in the country in the AP poll, pulling it together. And once the tournament starts, if they're peaking at that point, they're a very dangerous team. And, probably if they continue to play well, especially if they were to beat Syracuse, they could end up being a number 2 seed still.
Yeah, and you know what? In looking at Lenardi's brackets here, he has Florida State getting in.
14-10 right now.
They got a overtime loss to Michigan. They beat VCU. They lost to Florida by 1 point. But obviously the losses don't really help you too much. They beat UMass, who was ranked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, not a whole lot that I'm seeing that's great.
Yeah, I don't know what Lenardi sees. Lenardi's usually pretty
Yeah.
accurate, though.
Yep.
So he's got, 6 teams?
Yeah. So he has NC State and Clemson out right now.
Well, of course, a lot of basketball to play still,
Yep.
and then, of course, the conference tournament. So we'll have to stay tuned. But what an embarrassment for the ACC if they weren't to get if they were to get less than the Big East after taking 2 of the Big East teams. And
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I thought early on that possibly the Big East might get more teams. But the more I look at that, with obviously you got Villanova's in, Creighton's in, Xavier's probably in. Then now that's now you're getting that might be it.
Yeah, Georgetown probably not right now, but they could play themselves
6-6, 15-9. Marquette 6-5, 14-10.
They've been terrible this year.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you got to remember too that it's not that the Big East not only lost Pittsburgh and Syracuse, but they lost the other teams to the American Athletic,
Sure. Cincinnati, Louisville,
UConn. Now, if you throw those 3 teams back in the mix combined, they would certainly be
3 tournament teams.
But it's kind of sad to see the whole thing get fragmented like that. But
Yep,
that's life. We're living it in the new ACC. So let's move ahead to our power rankings. Top 5 teams in the country. This gets harder and harder to do. It's easy to do number 1. That's Syracuse. I got Syracuse. I'm sure you do too.
yes.
But in my top 5, I got Villanova at 5, Arizona at 4, Florida at 3, and Wichita State at 2. And I wanted to put Florida at 2, but you know what? Wichita State has not lost. Florida lost twice, and a lot of people say, Wichita State's obviously their schedule isn't quite as tough as some of these other teams, but as you said, any league game on the road, I don't care, what league you're in, they're difficult games to win. It's difficult to be any Division I college basketball team and win 25 in a row. I mean, it's really, really hard to win that many basketball games.
No doubt. And obviously they're not playing the schedule that a lot of these other teams are, but they're playing well, and they got a target on their back. Everybody's giving their best shot, and they've managed to not only win, but they're winning pretty convincingly. So I got Syracuse number 1, Well, let me go out. The fifth spot, I'll start there, was kind of, I like between Villanova, Kansas, and Duke.
Yeah.
I know Nova's only got the 2 losses, and they beat Kansas.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But I'm going to go Kansas 5, Wichita State 4, Arizona 3, Florida 2, Syracuse 1.
Can't argue with that. Bold predictions. Last week, my bold prediction was that Raheem Christmas has back-to-back double-figure scoring games. If they go to him more, maybe he would. He finished with 6 and 7 points in the 2 games and played well in both overall, I think. But nonetheless, I did not cash in on that one. Brad last week says SU beats Pitt by 15. They won by 2. Covered the spread. Imagine betting that game. They was a 1 point. Syracuse was 1 point dogs.
Yeah. I actually saw that 2.5 they're getting.
Oh, wow. Was that close to tip or?
Yeah.
So in that case, they didn't cover.
No, they're getting 2.5.
Oh, yeah. They won. That's right. But Brad comes up empty there. Now, Verk, you said Cooney shoots less than 30% of his threes from 3 over this past week, 2 games. He was 6 for 15. That works out to 40%. So you whiffed on that one as well. We don't usually get our bold predictions right. We come close a lot.
Yeah.
But let's see. The Mouth of the South, Dave Barnick, was in last week with us. And his bold prediction was that we win while scoring less than 55 against Clemson. He was wrong. We scored 57. Very close, though. He had the right idea.
Good
the
call.
right idea.
Yep.
But nonetheless, he didn't get it. How about this week? You got a bold prediction?
Roberson, double figures in one of the 2 games.
Okay. That's pretty bold. So he didn't even play against Pitt. But
He's going to play against BC or an NC State, though.
Well, especially, with Kifkita still out, especially. Geez, you know what? I did not pick a bold prediction yet, so this one's going to be off the top of my head. And so now I got to kind of channel, kind of see into the future. NC State and BC. And you know what? My bold prediction this
looks good, and I thought he played, really hustled against Pitt and made some big plays for him.
And to see him in that environment play pretty well composed was pretty encouraging too. I think he's at the point now where if we need him for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or whatever he needs to get on the court, we can feel pretty good about him being out there. Where early in the season, maybe not so much.
No, I agree. I've become a fan.
So those are our bold predictions for the week, and we're coming up at 10:49 Eastern Standard Time as the snow falls across the East Coast and us here in Seneca Falls, New York. Time for 2 for the road. And this was the best thing I read all week. Seth Davis of SI.com did a little interview with Jim Boeheim, and he asked him if he thought Ennis would turn pro after the season over. Boeheim said, "I don't think so. I think he knows, and his father knows, that he's a really good college player. He has to become a better shooter and get stronger to go to the next level. He'd go in the first round, but look at the number of first-round picks who are already out of the league in the last 2 years. It's a huge number." And it's true. So, you read that and you think, geez, he's talking to his father, and Ennis is going to stay. Can you imagine?
I hope so. And I agree with, obviously with what Coach Boeheim's saying. Ennis is so good that you hate to say, he's not ready for the pros because he just is so. Everybody, these GMs obviously, they got tons of scouts at the games, and they're all saying, that they're talking about going number 8. It's just, I guess it's tough to walk away from that, if you're a lottery pick, to not go.
But his confidence.
He seems like a kid who knows. He's so smart. He knows that he probably needs to get stronger, needs to get more consistent jump shot. And it's a matter of, do you want to work on that while sitting on the bench in the NBA, or do you want to work on it while freaking loving life at Syracuse?
Or look at it, work on it as your full-time job or as a student.
Right.
So that's tough to say too.
For example, you take a Marcus Smart. He's worked his way right out of the lottery this year. Last year he's going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
This year now he's down to 14 or 15. that's millions of dollars. So Ennis is on top of the world right now. If they win it all, I think he'll go. But I could see him coming back if they lose, especially if him and Grant both decide to come back.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Grant. We've talked about a little bit about he's obviously his family doesn't need the money. He's got things he can work on. But he's another guy. He's going to be a first rounder. But he's a guy who I think if he stays, he can go from that 15, 16 spot to a top 5 spot.
Be more of a focal point.
Get rid of some of these stud freshman forwards, and then he can be a top 5 pick.
And as dominant as Grant has been, physically, he's never the focus point of our offense. He hasn't scored 20 points in a game for us.
He scores. He does. Against he's Duke, I think he had in 20s.
He had one big game.
He knocks down the jumper a little bit, but you don't see a lot of NBA type moves out of him. I don't think he's kind of he's great at what he does, but it's kind of he gets by on his athleticism right now, I think.
Well, you can only imagine if if both those guys were to come back, and
Chris McCullough.
Yep, and Caleb Joseph would have a year of tutelage under Ennis, or we say maybe Ennis wants to stay for 3 or 4 years. You never know. Ennis always wanted to go to Syracuse ever since he was in the 6th grade. And now he's here. You're going to leave after 1 year. It's a little frustrating, but I'm sure whatever decision he makes will be the right for him. And the same thing with Grant, but. Okay, before we get out of here, we got to get some predictions. 2 games this week. Let's start with NC State. What's your prediction, final score of that one?
66-52.
I think that game's going to open up a little bit more. I don't think NC State's going to try to slow it down quite as much as maybe some of the other teams have. So I'm going to go 75 to 62. 13-point win. And then we got Boston College on the 19th. And that I'm going to go 94 to 33.
We struggled the first time at BC.
I know. We're not going to struggle at home, though. We're also going to wear some funky throwback uniforms that game. I don't know if you've seen them. They're the old cursive across the front.
Yeah. And they're blue shorts.
Yeah, which makes no sense because we never wore blue shorts with orange shirts. So,
are we in the uniform's orange with blue shorts at home?
That's a picture that's been on the internet of them, and it's the old cursive across the front from when Pearl was.
BC, we beat 78 to 62.
Okay, nice 16-point win there. That'll probably be somewhere around what the line is, 15-ish. So, hopefully 2 more wins. If we are back here next Thursday night and they're 26-0, that's crazy. And
with Duke coming up on Saturday.
And could never, ever have thought back when we did our first couple episodes of this podcast in early November, could have never, ever thought.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance they will be. I like our chances to go 2-0 this week.
2 home games.
Yeah, 2 home games against, BC's bottom half and NC State's in the middle half of the league, so.
Man, 26-0, and that's the other thing people talk about. Let's lose a game. It's good to lose a game. We're doing something now that no Syracuse team has ever did. It's not going to be good to lose.
I don't believe in that. It's they're playing close games. It's not like they're blowing it. What more can you add? Duke, Pitt. There's been several games that have. You want close games, not necessarily lose a game. In my mind, what does losing the game do for you? Nothing. I don't know, but.
They say it takes the pressure off heading into the tournament, but
the tournament's the tournament. I don't care if you're undefeated or got 10 losses.
Yeah.
Every game is you lose and you go home. I mean,
what more pressure can you have than that?
Yeah.
So, all right, Vert, good show tonight. It's always fun talking about an undefeated #1 ranked team, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I mean, imagine if we did this podcast back in the Shumpert, Deshaun Williams years when we went to the NIT, or even few years ago when it was
Dante Green years.
Yeah, boy, we would have been talking about the potential dynasty. So, what's Dante up to?
He's doing all right.
Sacramento?
I'm not even sure where he's at, but he was in the D League for a little bit, but I saw he's scoring a little bit. William Mary's got a big game Saturday at Townsend. They're both 7-3 in the league. It's at William Mary. It's on TV.
It's appointment viewing right there, right?
It is.
So,
Go Tribe.
What channel is it on?
It's on like Sports Channel New York, actually.
Did you ever watch a William Mary game and hear the announcer say, mention your name?
I haven't. You know,
They got to do the research.
one of the announcers is my old coach. Oh, no, on the radio, that is.
Ah.
So the TV guys, I don't know why they would. But
I would just think that maybe at some point, on William Mary games on TV and you
Throw
hear
up
him
a
say,
stat. Top 5 shooters or something.
Yeah, shoot something with a shooting or freshman 3-point record or something like that. But, hey, maybe it'll be this week.
Yep.
But, all right, time to get home and warm up the cars. Big winter storm heading up the northeast, canceling basketball games left and right. No matter how much snow we get, they're not canceling any games up at Syracuse. We know how to deal with the snow up here.
That's right.
So thanks for joining us on the Upstate Orange podcast. You can subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. We're online at podcasts.fingerlakes1.com/upstate hoops. And we'll be back again live next Thursday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For my co-host Matt Verkey and our producer Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Let's go Orange.